The sky above Earth was no longer blue. 3,000 warships blocked out the sun, casting shadows across every continent. They hung there like metal vultures waiting for humanity's answer. The Vrax Dominion had given Earth 72 hours to choose, become slaves or die. 60 hours had already passed. Han Ji-woo stood in the council chamber, watching world leaders argue in circles. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight a battle they could not win. She felt tired. So very tired. The war had already taken everything from her. Her home, her family, her faith in tomorrow. Now it was taking her planet. We should at least try to negotiate, someone said at the table. An older man with gray hair and trembling hands. Negotiate what? Another voice snapped back. They want complete control. There is nothing to discuss. Ji-woo closed her eyes. She had seen negotiations before during the colony wars. She had watched people try to find peace with words when weapons had failed. Sometimes it worked. Most times it did not. But trying was better than giving up without a fight. The door opened. Admiral Park Min-ho entered the room. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with scars on his face that told stories of old battles. He had been Ji-woo's commander during the wars. He had saved her life twice. She had saved his once. That made them family, in the way soldiers become family. The Vrax will not negotiate, Park Min-ho said. His voice was heavy. I have tried for 3 days. They do not even respond to our messages. Then we are finished, someone whispered. No. Park Min-ho walked to the center of the room. There is one option left. We send someone to their home world, to speak directly to their emperor. The room fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once. It was madness. It was suicide. The Vrax would kill any human on sight. Their emperor had not spoken to another species in 200 years. It will not work, the council leader said. Perhaps not, Park Min-ho agreed. But dying with dignity is better than dying on our knees. Ji-woo felt something stir in her chest. A small flame she thought had gone out long ago. Hope was a dangerous thing. It made you believe in impossible outcomes. But it also made you willing to try. I will go, she said. Every head turned toward her. She was nobody important. Just a former medic who now worked as a civilian diplomat. She had no rank, no real power. But she had walked through fire before and survived. Maybe she could do it again. Ji-woo, no, Park Min-ho said softly. I cannot ask this of you. You are not asking. I am offering. He looked at her for a long moment. In his eyes she saw sadness and pride mixed together. He knew what this meant. Everyone knew. This was a one-way trip. The Vrax would probably kill her the moment she arrived. But someone had to try. The council agreed quickly. They had no better options. No other volunteers. Ji-woo was given 12 hours to prepare. She spent most of that time alone, thinking about her life. She had no regrets. She had saved lives during the war. She had helped people when she could. If her death could buy Earth even one more day, it would be enough. On the final evening, Kang Sora came to see her. Sora worked at the Quantum Archive, a massive library that stored every piece of human history. She was young, brilliant, and usually full of energy. Tonight she looked exhausted. I brought you something, Sora said. She held out a small crystal, no bigger than her thumb. This contains everything. Every war we fought, every mistake we made, every beautiful thing we created. Music, art, literature, science, all of it. Ji-woo took the crystal carefully. It was warm in her hand. Why would the Vrax care about our history? Maybe they will not, Sora admitted. But if you are going to die trying to save us, you should show them what they are destroying. Let them see who we really are. Ji-woo closed her fingers around the crystal. Thank you. Come back alive, Sora said. Her voice broke slightly. Please. Ji-woo wanted to promise she would, but she had learned long ago not to make promises she could not keep. So she just hugged Sora tightly and said nothing. The next morning, Ji-woo walked to the landing pad. A small shuttle waited there, unarmed, unshielded, just a tiny metal box that would carry her to the Vrax homeworld. Park Min-ho was there to see her off. He did not say much. He never did when emotions ran too deep. You taught me something important, Ji-woo said as she prepared to board. You taught me that courage is not about being unafraid. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are terrified. Park Min-ho's jaw tightened. I taught you too well. No, you taught me just right. She climbed into the shuttle. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Through the window she saw Park Minho standing alone on the pad watching her. He raised one hand in salute. She returned it. The shuttle lifted off. As Earth fell away beneath her, Jiwoo saw the Vrax warships more clearly. They were massive beyond understanding. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. Together they could crack the planet like an egg. Humanity had built wonderful things in its time. Towers that touched the clouds, ships that sailed between stars. But nothing they made could stand against this armada. The journey would take 3 days. 3 days alone in the dark with nothing but her thoughts and the crystal Sora had given her. Jiwoo spent the time reviewing humanity's history on the crystal. She watched wars and peace treaties. She saw people at their worst and at their best. She saw cruelty and kindness, hatred and love all mixed together in the complicated mess that was human existence. One video made her cry. It showed a young girl in the ruins of a bombed city, sharing her last piece of bread with a starving dog. The girl had nothing. The city was destroyed. Death was all around. But she still chose kindness. That was humanity in one simple act. Broken but not defeated. Suffering but still caring. On the 3rd day, Jiwoo saw the Vrax homeworld ahead. Drakor. It was huge, almost twice the size of Earth. The sky was red like blood. Mountains of black stone rose into the clouds. Floating cities hung in the air, held up by technology Jiwoo could not understand. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Her communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in harsh, growling syllables. The computer translated, "Human vessel. You will land at the Imperial Palace. Any deviation from the designated path will result in immediate destruction." "Understood," Jiwoo replied. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the controls tightly to steady them. The shuttle descended through red clouds. She saw more of the planet now. Massive structures everywhere. Cities that made Earth's greatest metropolis look like a small village. This was an empire that had conquered galaxies. And she was just one human coming to beg them to spare her world. The palace came into view. It was carved from a single mountain of black crystal. Towers rose into the sky like claws. Thousands of Vrax warriors lined the landing pad, their scales gleaming in the red light. They watched her shuttle land with cold reptilian eyes. Jiwoo took a deep breath. She picked up the crystal containing humanity's history and held it close to her heart. Then she opened the shuttle door and stepped out into the dragon's lair. The Emperor was waiting. The air on Drakor burned Jiwoo's lungs. It was thick and hot, smelling of sulfur and metal. She stood on the landing pad, surrounded by thousands of Vrax warriors. They were massive creatures, each one standing 3 meters tall. Their scales were dark green and gray, tough as armor. Their eyes glowed amber in the dim light. Long tails swept the ground behind them. When they breathed, smoke curled from their nostrils. Nobody moved to kill her. That was surprising. Jiwoo had expected to die the moment she stepped off the shuttle. But the warriors simply watched her with those burning eyes, silent and still as statues. A figure approached from the palace entrance. This Vrax was even larger than the others, with deep scars crossing his scales and one eye that had turned white from an old wound. He wore armor decorated with symbols Jiwoo did not recognize, probably marks of rank and honor. "I am General Vorthak," the creature said. His voice was like gravel grinding against stone. "You are the human envoy?" "I am Han Jiwoo," she replied. Her voice sounded small in the vast space, but she kept it steady. "I have come to speak with your emperor," Vorthak laughed. It was a harsh, unpleasant sound. Many have come to speak with the emperor. Most did not live long enough to regret it. He leaned down, bringing his massive head close to hers. She could see rows of sharp teeth behind his lips. "Why should we not simply kill you now and finish your species?" Jiwoo met his gaze without flinching. "Because I came here alone and unarmed. If you fear one human enough to kill her without hearing her words, then perhaps we are stronger than you think." Silence fell across the landing pad. Several warriors shifted, their claws scraping stone. Vorthak's remaining good eye widened slightly. Then he laughed again, but this time it sounded different, almost respectful. "Perhaps you are braver than most, small human. Or perhaps you are simply stupid. We will see which." He turned and started walking toward the palace. "Follow me. The Emperor has agreed to see you, though I doubt it will save your world." Jiwoo followed him across the landing pad and through massive doors made of dark metal. Inside, the palace was even more impressive than the outside. Hallways stretched into the distance, their walls carved with scenes of battle and conquest. Everywhere she looked, Jiwoo saw monuments to destroyed species, statues of alien beings on their knees, pyramids made of weapons taken from defeated armies, crystals that glowed with the names of extinct civilizations. A young Vrax appeared beside her as they walked. This one was smaller and had brighter scales. Female, Jiwoo guessed, though she was not sure how to tell with this species. "I am Shireen," the Vrax said quietly. "I study the conquered species. I document their histories before they are forgotten." She looked at Jiwoo with curiosity. "You are the first human I have seen in person. You are very small." "We do not need size to be strong," Jiwoo replied. "No, I suppose not." The Krell were large. The Morthen were giants. Both are now extinct. Shireen's voice carried a hint of sadness. "I wonder what your species will leave behind. What will I write about humans when you are gone?" "Perhaps you will not need to write that story," Jiwoo said. Shireen looked at her strangely but said nothing more. They reached the throne room after walking for what felt like hours. The doors opened slowly, revealing a chamber so vast that Jiwoo could barely see the far walls. Thousands of Vrax filled the space. These were not warriors but nobles and officials, all wearing fine armor and jeweled ornaments. They watched her with the same cold curiosity someone might show an interesting insect. At the far end of the chamber sat the throne. It was made of bones. Thousands of them from hundreds of different species all fused together into a seat of death. And upon that throne sat Emperor Thraxus. He was ancient. Jiwoo could see it in every line of his scarred body, in the way his scales had darkened almost to black in the weight of his gaze. He was twice the size of any other Vrax in the room. His eyes glowed brighter, burning like small suns. When he breathed, the air itself seemed to tremble. "Come forward, human," the Emperor commanded. His voice filled the chamber like thunder. "Let me see this creature who dares to visit my throne." Jiwoo walked down the long center aisle. Every step echoed in the silent chamber. She felt thousands of eyes on her back. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she kept her head high and her pace steady. When she reached the base of the throne, General Vorthak and the other Vrax around her lowered themselves to the ground in a bow. Jiwoo remained standing. A murmur ran through the crowd. Several Vrax hissed in anger. Vorthak raised his head and glared at her. "Kneel before the Emperor!" "No," Jiwoo said simply. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne of bones. "You refuse to show proper respect?" "I show respect by standing before you honestly," Jiwoo replied. "I did not come to grovel. I did not come to beg for mercy like a beaten dog. I came to show you what you're about to destroy." Thraxus studied her in silence. The moment stretched out tight as a wire ready to snap. Jiwoo thought he might order her death. Instead, he began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the chamber. "You are either the bravest creature I have met in 8 centuries, or the most foolish," the Emperor said. "Very well, human. You have my attention. Speak. Tell me why I should not end your species and add Earth to my collection of conquered worlds." Jiwoo reached into her pocket and pulled out the crystal Sora had given her. She held it up so the Emperor could see. "This contains the complete history of humanity. Every war we fought, every peace we made, every triumph and failure. I ask only that you review it before you decide our fate." "Why would I care about your history?" Thraxus asked. "The dead have no need of remembered glory." "Perhaps not. But you are about to judge an entire species. Should you not know who we are before you destroy us? Or are you afraid that knowing might change your mind?" Another murmur ran through the crowd. Nobody spoke to the Emperor this way. Jiwoo could see Vorthak's claws extending, scraping against stone, but Thraxus only smiled, showing rows of teeth like knives. "Afraid? Of a small crystal and a smaller creature?" The Emperor gestured with one massive claw. "Very well. I will indulge your request. Let us see this history you prize so highly. Perhaps it will provide entertainment before I make my final decision." Shireen stepped forward and took the crystal from Jiwoo's hand. She placed it in a device at the center of the throne room. Immediately, holographic displays filled the air above them. Images began to play, showing scenes from Earth's long history. The Emperor settled back on his throne. "Begin," he commanded. The images started with humanity's earliest days. Primitive hunters on an ancient savanna. The first tools. The first fires. The Vrax in the chamber watched with obvious contempt. This was a weak species, they thought. Small and soft, with no claws or armor. Easy prey. But the images continued. Cities rose. Empires formed. Wars raged across the planet. The Vrax saw humans fighting each other with increasing sophistication. Swords gave way to guns. Guns gave way to bombs. The violence impressed them. At least these humans knew how to wage war properly. Then the images showed something unexpected. After wars, humans rebuilt. They helped their enemies recover. They created laws to prevent future conflicts. They built hospitals and schools. They made art and music. They reached for the stars not with weapons but with wonder. Vorthak shifted uncomfortably. This is strange. They fight, yes, but then they also heal? Why would they help those they defeated? I do not understand this behavior, another Vrax noble said. Jiwoo spoke quietly, her voice carrying through the silent chamber. We fight because we are not perfect. We make terrible mistakes, but we also never stop trying to be better than we were yesterday. That is what makes us human. The images continued to play. The throne room fell silent as the Vrax watched humanity's story unfold. Jiwoo stood alone before the throne, waiting. Everything depended on what happened next. Would the Emperor see humanity as worth saving, or would these images of a struggling, imperfect species only confirm his decision to destroy them? Emperor Thraxus watched the displays with unreadable eyes. His expression revealed nothing, but Jiwoo noticed something interesting. He had not looked away, not even once. The night was long, and humanity's story had only just begun. Hours passed in the throne room. The holographic displays continued showing humanity's history while thousands of Vrax watched in silence. Jiwoo stood at the center of it all, exhausted but refusing to sit or show weakness. Her legs ached. Her throat was dry, but she remained standing, watching the dragons watch her people. The images showed humanity's darkest moments without mercy. Slavery, genocide, world wars that killed millions. The Vrax nobles nodded at these scenes, satisfied. This proved what they already believed. All species were violent at their core. All beings chose cruelty when given the chance. Humans were no different, you see, General Vorthak said, gesturing at a scene of ancient warfare. They are just like every other species. They conquer. They enslave. They destroy. There is nothing special here. But Emperor Thraxus remained silent, his burning eyes fixed on the displays. He had not spoken in hours. Then the images shifted. They showed what came after the wars. Humans working together to heal the damage. Former enemies helping each other rebuild. People from different nations reaching across old hatreds to create something new. The Vrax in the chamber stirred, confused by what they saw. Shireen, the young scholar, moved closer to the displays. Her eyes were wide with fascination. This is unusual, she said softly. After conquering their enemies, these humans helped them recover. They shared resources with those they defeated. Weakness, Vorthak declared. They lacked the strength to finish what they started. Or perhaps, Jiwoo said, her voice cutting through the chamber, we had the strength to choose mercy over revenge. The displays showed more. After devastating wars in Earth's 20th century, humans created international laws. They built organizations to prevent future conflicts. They chose cooperation over endless violence. It was slow. It was imperfect, but it was change. This makes no strategic sense, a Vrax noble observed. Why not simply crush your enemies when you have the chance? Why help them grow strong again? Because we learned something, Jiwoo replied. We learned that making an enemy kneel is easy. Making an enemy into a friend is hard, but only the hard way leads to lasting peace. The images continued. They showed the first contact crisis when humanity first met an alien species. A misunderstanding nearly started a war. Human ships were destroyed. Thousands died. But instead of seeking revenge, human leaders chose to investigate what went wrong. They discovered the aliens had not attacked intentionally. A translation error had caused the tragedy. So humans worked with the aliens to prevent future mistakes. They built understanding instead of hatred. Vorthak's tail lashed against the floor. This is insanity. Their people died and they chose peace? Their people died so they chose to prevent more deaths, Shireen corrected softly. Is that not a form of strength? To control the rage and think of the future? The general had no answer to that. The displays showed the Martian plague next. An alien refugee ship had arrived at Mars colony carrying a deadly disease. The aliens were desperate, fleeing from war in their home system. They did not know they were infected. The disease spread quickly through the human colony. Thousands became sick. The easiest solution would have been to quarantine the aliens and let them die. Instead, human doctors worked day and night to find a cure. Many of those doctors caught the disease themselves, some died, but they saved both humans and aliens in the end. One scene showed a human doctor, sick and dying, still working in the laboratory. His hands shook as he prepared samples. Another human tried to make him rest, but he refused. "These people came to us for help," the doctor said in the recording. "I will not let them die alone." 3 days later, he found the cure. 2 days after that, he died from the disease. The throne room was absolutely silent. Even Vorthak had stopped objecting. The Vraks simply watched, their expressions unreadable. The images shifted to the colony wars. Ji-Woo tensed. This was her story now. The displays showed the brutal conflict between human factions over colony resources. She saw battles she had fought in. She saw ships burning in space. She saw the field hospital where she had worked, trying to save lives while the war raged around her. One scene made her close her eyes briefly. It showed her pulling a wounded enemy soldier from a burning ship. The soldier had been trying to kill her hours before. His side had destroyed her home colony, but when she saw him trapped in the wreckage, she went back for him. She carried him through fire and debris to safety. The recording showed her face covered in soot and blood as she worked to save a man who hated her. "Why?" Vorthak asked suddenly. His voice was quieter than before. "Why did you save your enemy?" Ji-Woo opened her eyes. "Because he was a person, and I am a doctor. Those two facts mattered more than which side we fought for. But he would have killed you." "Yes, he probably would have. But that was his choice to make. I made mine." Emperor Thraxus finally spoke. His voice was heavy and thoughtful. "And after you saved him? What happened then?" Ji-Woo remembered that day clearly. He looked at me like he could not understand what I had done. Then he asked me why. I told him the same thing I just said. We sat together while we waited for rescue. He told me about his family. I told him about mine. We were just two tired people in the ruins trying to understand how we ended up there. "Did it change anything?" the Emperor asked. That soldier became a voice for peace in his faction. He helped negotiate the treaty that ended the colony wars. One act of mercy started a chain reaction. That is what humans do. We plant seeds of hope even in the darkest soil, and sometimes they grow. The displays showed more examples. Humans reaching across barriers of language and culture to help strangers. Humans risking their lives for people they would never meet. Small acts of kindness repeated millions of times across centuries. Not because they had to. Not because it was easy, but because they chose to believe in something better. Shireen was staring at the images with something like wonder. "In all the species I have studied, I have never seen this pattern. Other species evolve technologically. They grow stronger and build empires, but they do not change fundamentally. They do not choose to become better than they were. Humans are unique in this. Or they are simply better at lying to themselves," Vorthak said, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. "Perhaps," Ji-Woo admitted. "We do lie to ourselves sometimes. We tell ourselves we are better than we are, but that lie becomes a goal. We strive to live up to the better version of ourselves we imagine. Is that really weakness, or is it the most powerful force in the universe?" The display showed humanity's art next. Music from every culture and era, paintings that captured both beauty and pain, literature that asked the hardest questions about existence, poetry that made the Vraks translator struggle to find equivalent words in their language. One poem played in both English and translated Vraks. It was short and simple. A human writer asking whether hope was foolish in a dark universe. The poem concluded that even if hope was foolish, it was a foolishness worth embracing. Because the alternative was despair, and despair created nothing. Ji-Woo saw several Vraks shift uncomfortably. These were concepts they did not deal with often. Hope, mercy, compassion. Their empire was built on power and conquest. These softer ideas had no place in their culture. But Shireen was watching the displays with tears forming in her large eyes. Ji-Woo had not known Vraks could cry. The young scholar looked at Ji-Woo and said softly, "You are not trying to show us you are strong. You are trying to show us you are alive." "Yes," Ji-Woo said. "We are alive in every sense of the word. We feel deeply. We hope desperately. We love fiercely. Destroying us does not just end bodies. It ends all of that potential. All those possible futures. All those moments of beauty we have not yet created." The final images began to play. Recent history. Humanity reaching out to other alien species with friendship instead of fear. Building alliances. Sharing technology, learning from others and teaching in return. The displays showed Earth as it was now. Cities of glass and green growing things, ships sailing between stars, children of different species playing together in schools. It was not perfect. There were still problems, still conflicts, but there was also progress. Always progress, the last image appeared. It showed a human child and an alien refugee child flying a kite together on Earth. The alien child was learning to run, laughing as the kite climbed higher. The human child held her hand, teaching her how to control the string. It was a simple moment. Nothing grand or important, just two children playing on a sunny day. The displays went dark. The throne room was absolutely silent. Emperor Thraxus rose from his throne of bones. It was the first time he had moved in hours. The sound of his massive body standing echoed through the chamber. Emperor Thraxus descended from his throne. Each step shook the floor beneath Jiwoo's feet. The ancient dragon moved slowly, his massive body still powerful despite his age. The entire throne room watched in stunned silence. Many of the Vrax nobles had never seen the emperor leave his seat. He had ruled from that throne for 800 years, never moving, never showing weakness. But now he walked toward Jiwoo. She stood her ground, though every instinct screamed at her to run. He stopped just before her, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his scaled body. His eyes burned as he looked down at her small form. "Do you know why I built this empire, little human?" His voice was softer now, almost gentle. It was somehow more terrifying than his earlier thunder. "No, Emperor," Jiwoo replied honestly. "Then I will tell you a story the Vrax do not speak of anymore." He turned and looked at the gathered nobles. "A story we have tried to forget." The chamber remained silent. Even Vorthak seemed shocked by this turn of events. Long ago, before this empire existed, the Vrax were different. Thraxus began. "We were a peaceful species. We valued art and philosophy. We built cities of beauty, and devoted ourselves to understanding the universe. We were in many ways much like your humans." He paused, his expression darkening. "And then the Krathak found us." Jiwoo saw several older Vrax flinch at the name. The Krathak were destroyers. They took joy in causing pain. They did not want to conquer us or enslave us. They simply wanted to watch us suffer. The Emperor's claws scraped against the stone floor. They tortured our people. They burned our cities. They made art of our agony. And we, peaceful fools that we were, could not stop them. He looked back at Jiwoo. "We were nearly extinct when I was young. The Krathak had reduced our population to a few thousand survivors, hiding in caves and ruins. They hunted us for sport. Do you know what saved us?" Jiwoo shook her head. "We changed. We became what hunted us. We learned cruelty. We learned violence. We abandoned our art and philosophy and picked up weapons. We transformed ourselves into monsters because only monsters could survive in a universe that rewarded violence." His voice grew harder, and we did survive. We hunted down every last Krathak. We wiped them from existence. Then we turned our weapons on any species that might threaten us. We conquered galaxy after galaxy, ensuring no one could ever make us victims again. Vorthak stepped forward. "My Emperor, why are you telling this human our history?" "Because she has shown me something I had forgotten," Thraxus replied. "She has shown me what we lost when we became conquerors." He returned to his throne but did not sit. Instead, he stood beside it, one massive claw resting on the bones. "For 800 years I have ruled this empire. For 800 years we have taken and destroyed. We told ourselves it was necessary. That strength was the only virtue worth having. That mercy was weakness." He looked at the assembled Vrax. "But in 8 centuries of conquest, have any of you felt peace? True peace, not just the absence of war?" Nobody answered. "Have any of you created something beautiful just for the joy of creation? Have any of you known hope?" He gestured at the space where the human history had played. "These humans suffer. They make terrible mistakes. They know war and cruelty as well as we do, but they also know something we have forgotten. They know joy. They know hope. They believe tomorrow can be better than today. When did we last believe that?" Shireen spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. "My Emperor, in all my research of conquered species, I have found none that showed this capacity for fundamental change. Every species we studied became more of what they already were. The violent became more violent. The cunning became more manipulative. But humans become different. They learn from pain and choose gentleness. They see darkness and create light. This is unique in all the galaxy. It is also dangerous, Vorthak argued. My Emperor, consider what you are saying. This human has shown us pretty images and told us pleasing stories. But we know the truth. Power is the only constant. If we show mercy to humans, other species will see it as weakness. Our empire will crumble. Perhaps it should, Thraxus said quietly. The throne room erupted. Vrax's nobles shouted in shock and anger. This was heresy. The empire was everything. It was their identity, their purpose, their reason for existing. Vorthak's voice rose above the others. My Emperor, you cannot mean this. We have built the greatest empire in galactic history. We have conquered thousands of species. We are strong. Yes, the Emperor agreed. We are strong. We are powerful. We are feared across 4 galaxies. He looked at Vorthak directly. But tell me, General, when did you last feel anything other than emptiness? When did you last believe our conquest served any purpose beyond perpetuating more conquest? The General opened his mouth, but no words came out. Thraxus turned back to Jiwoo. This human stood alone before thousands of warriors who could kill her with a thought. She did not beg. She did not offer us wealth or territory. She simply showed us who her people are, and in doing so she showed us what we have become. He paused. She showed us that strength can be used for something other than causing fear. Jiwoo felt her throat tighten. She had come here expecting to die. She had hoped only to buy Earth a few more days. She had never imagined this. I will make my decision now, the Emperor declared. His voice filled the chamber with absolute authority. Earth will not be destroyed. Humanity will not be enslaved. The Vrax Dominion will instead become humanity's protector. The chamber exploded with voices again. This was unprecedented. The Vrax had never protected another species. They conquered or they destroyed. There was no third option. Vorthak's tail lashed in agitation. My Emperor, this is madness. If we protect them, they will grow weak. They will depend on us and lose whatever strength they have. No, General. You misunderstand. Thraxus looked at Jiwoo. We will not protect them from their own struggles. We will not prevent them from growing or making mistakes. We will protect them from those who would destroy them as we were nearly destroyed. We will ensure they have the time and space to continue becoming what they can be. He spread his arms wide, addressing all the assembled Vrax. For 8 centuries, we have known only one purpose: conquest. I am offering us a new purpose. We will learn from humanity how to be more than destroyers. They will remind us of what we lost, and in return we will ensure no one takes from them what was taken from us. Jiwoo found her voice. Emperor Thraxus, I do not know if my people can teach you anything. We are still learning ourselves. We still make mistakes every day. That is exactly why you can teach us, he replied. You have not forgotten how to change. You have not convinced yourselves that you are already perfect. You strive towards something better, even knowing you may never reach it. That striving is what we lost. That is what we need to remember. He looked at Vorthak and the other nobles. I am aware this decision is difficult. Many of you have known nothing but conquest, but I ask you to trust me one final time. I have led you for 800 years. I have made you strong. Now let me try to make you something more than strong. Let me try to make you whole. The chamber fell silent. Jiwoo could see the Vrax struggling with this new reality. Their entire culture was built on domination. This was asking them to become something they had never been before. Finally, Vorthak stepped forward. He lowered himself to the ground before the Emperor, a gesture of absolute submission. My Emperor, I do not fully understand your decision, but I have followed you through 8 centuries of war. I will follow you now, even into peace. One by one, the other Vrax in the chamber lowered themselves as well. Some did so eagerly, clearly moved by what they had seen. Others did so reluctantly, bound by duty more than conviction. But all of them submitted to the Emperor's will. Thraxus nodded slowly. Then he turned to Jiwoo and did something that shook her to her core. The ancient Emperor, ruler of 4 galaxies, lowered his massive head in a bow of respect. You came here to beg for mercy, Han Jiwoo, but you have given us something far more valuable. You have given us hope that we can be more than we are. Jiwoo felt tears running down her face. She had held herself together through everything, but this broke through her defenses. Thank you, Emperor. You have saved my world. No, Thraxus said gently. You saved it yourself. You showed us it was worth saving. News of the Emperor's decision spread across Drakor like wildfire. Within hours, every Vrax in the Empire knew that humanity would be spared. Within a day, the news reached other alien species throughout the galaxies. The reactions were mixed. Some saw it as weakness. Others saw it as an opportunity. But everyone agreed on one thing. The Vrax Dominion had changed forever. Jiwoo was given quarters in the Imperial Palace. She was exhausted beyond measure, but sleep would not come. Too much had happened. Her mind kept returning to the throne room, to the Emperor's words, to the impossible thing she had somehow accomplished. Earth was safe. Her people would live. It did not feel real. A knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found Shireen standing there, clutching several data tablets to her chest. "I hope I am not disturbing you," the young Vrax said, "but I wanted to ask you questions about humanity. For my research. And also because She paused, seeming uncertain. "Because I want to understand." Jiwoo invited her in. They sat together, an unlikely pair, and talked for hours. Shireen asked about everything. Human art and music. Human relationships and families. How humans dealt with loss and celebrated joy. Jiwoo answered as best she could, sometimes struggling to explain things she had always taken for granted. "You said humans believe tomorrow can be better than today," Shireen said at one point. "But how do you maintain that belief when so much goes wrong? When people hurt each other? When progress seems impossible?" Jiwoo thought about that. "I think we maintain it because the alternative is giving up. And giving up means nothing ever gets better. So we choose to hope even when hope seems foolish. We choose to try even when trying seems pointless, because sometimes, against all odds, things do get better." Shireen made notes on her tablet. "The Vrax lost this ability long ago. We believe only in what we can control through force. Perhaps that is why we stopped growing as a culture. You cannot force hope into existence." "No," Jiwoo agreed. "You can only choose it." The next morning, Jiwoo was summoned to the Imperial Council. This was a gathering of the 12 Dragon Lords, the highest-ranking Vrax in the Empire. Each one ruled an entire galaxy in the Emperor's name. They were the most powerful beings in known space, aside from Thraxus himself. The council chamber was smaller than the throne room, but no less impressive. 12 massive seats arranged in a circle, with the Emperor's throne at the head. The Dragon Lords watched Jiwoo enter with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. General Vorthak was there as well, standing at attention near the Emperor. Shireen had been allowed to attend as a scholar, taking notes in the corner. "The human envoy arrives," announced one of the Dragon Lords. His scales were deep red, and his voice dripped with sarcasm. "The creature who somehow convinced our Emperor to abandon 8 centuries of successful policy." "Peace, Krathnor," Emperor Thraxus said calmly. "Han Jiwoo is our guest. She will be treated with respect." Another Dragon Lord spoke, this one with silver scales and a more measured tone. "Emperor, we do not question your wisdom, but we must understand your reasoning. The Vrax Dominion has always acted from a position of strength. How does protecting a weak species serve our interests?" "That is exactly what we must discuss," the Emperor replied. He gestured for Jiwoo to stand at the center of the circle. "The Council will hear arguments both for and against my decision. Then we will make it official through the Dragon's Oath." Krathnor, the red-scaled Dragon Lord, spoke first. "This is foolishness. Humans are weak. They have no military power to offer us, no technology we do not already possess, no resources we need. They only burden us with responsibility while providing nothing in return. Worse, showing mercy makes us appear soft to other species. We will invite challenges to our authority." Several other Dragon Lords nodded in agreement. Vorthak surprised everyone by speaking next. "I have similar concerns. However, I must also report what I have observed. The human envoy showed courage that many warriors lack. She stood before us knowing death was likely and did not waver. That is not weakness. That is a different kind of strength," Krathnor hissed. "Courage without power is meaningless. A brave insect is still just an insect, is it?" Shireen's voice was quiet but clear. Every head turned toward her. She looked terrified but continued speaking. "Forgive me, Dragon Lords, but I have studied 47 conquered species. Not one of them showed the capacity for fundamental moral evolution that humans possess. Most species are locked into their nature. Humans actively work to transcend theirs. This is unique. This is valuable." "Valuable how?" another Dragon Lord asked. This one had dark blue scales. "What use is moral evolution?" Jiwoo spoke before she could stop herself. "It means we can change. It means we can learn from mistakes and become better. Your empire is built on the idea that strength and conquest are the highest virtues. But what happens when you have conquered everything? Where do you go from there? You need a new direction, a new purpose. We might help you find it. Crathnor laughed harshly. And why would we need help from prey animals? Because you have forgotten something important, Jiwoo said, meeting his burning gaze. You have forgotten what you are protecting. The Vrax became conquerors to survive, to ensure you would never be victims again. But somewhere along the way, you forgot what you were trying to preserve. You saved your species but lost your soul. Silence fell over the chamber. Several dragon lords shifted uncomfortably. These were not concepts they discussed often. The silver-scaled dragon lord spoke again. Even if we accept your reasoning, how do we implement this protection? Do we station fleets around Earth forever? Do we prevent humans from facing any challenges? That would indeed make them weak. No, Emperor Thraxus said. We do not shield them from growth. We shield them from extinction. Let me be clear about what I propose. He looked around at all the dragon lords. Humanity will remain independent. They will make their own decisions, fight their own battles, and learn their own lessons. We will only intervene if an outside force threatens their existence as a species. We become guardians, not rulers, and what do we gain? Crathnor demanded. We gain a purpose beyond endless conquest, the Emperor replied. We gain the opportunity to remember what we once were. We gain teachers who can show us there are other ways to be strong. Another dragon lord spoke, one who had been silent until now. Her scales were pale gold. I fought in the Krathak Wars when I was young. I remember what we were before. I remember the art and philosophy we abandoned. I remember believing in something other than power. She looked at Jiwoo. If there is a chance to rediscover that, even a small chance, is it not worth trying? Here is my concern, the blue-scaled dragon lord said. What if humans change? What if they become corrupt with our protection? What if they become like the Krathak or like us? Jiwoo answered honestly. That could happen. We are not perfect. Some of us will probably become exactly what you fear. Power does corrupt, but that is why we need each other. You can remind us never to become tyrants, and we can remind you that there is more to existence than domination. We can keep each other honest. Vorthak stepped forward. My emperor, I have one question for the human. He looked at Jiwoo. You came here expecting to die. You risked everything for your species. Would you be willing to risk something else? Would you be willing to stay here, among us, and teach us what you promised? Jiwoo had not expected this. Stay on Dracacor? Leave Earth behind? But she understood what Vorthak was really asking. Words were easy. Would she commit to this alliance with her own life? Yes, she said without hesitation. I will stay as long as you need me. Emperor Thraxus rose from his throne. Then we will proceed with the dragon's oath. This is the formal commitment of our empire to this new path. He looked at each dragon lord in turn. Those who support my decision, stand with me now. The pale gold dragon lord stood immediately. Then the silver one. Then the blue. One by one, 8 of the 12 dragon lords rose. 4 remained seated, including Crathnor. They would not support this decision, but they would not openly defy the Emperor either. It is decided, Thraxus declared. The Vrax Dominion will protect humanity. We will learn from them as they grow, and we will ensure no other species does to them what was done to us. He descended from his throne and approached Jiwoo. Then, in a gesture that shook her to her core, the ancient emperor lowered himself to one knee before her. His massive head bowed. We who have taken so much shall give freely. We who knew only conquest shall learn protection. We who destroyed hope shall guard it in humanity's name. One by one, the dragon lords who supported the decision also knelt. Vorthak knelt. Shireen knelt. Throughout the palace, word spread of what was happening. Thousands of Vrax warriors knelt in the halls and chambers. An empire built on domination was bowing before a single human. Tears ran down Jiwoo's face. She had entered this place to beg for mercy. Instead, the dragons had chosen to become something new. Back on Earth, Park Minho stood on the command deck of the defense fleet, watching his displays in stunned silence. The Vrax armada was moving, but instead of attacking positions, they were forming a defensive sphere around Earth. A message came through from the Vrax flagship. Earth is now under the protection of the Vrax Dominion. By order of Emperor Thraxus, no hostile force will be permitted to threaten this world. Park Minho sat down heavily. Around him, his crew erupted in cheers and tears. They had been preparing to die. Now they were being protected by the most powerful empire in the galaxy. It seemed impossible. But the evidence hung right there in space. 3,000 warships now standing guard instead of preparing attack. Kang Sora, watching from the quantum archive, recorded every moment. On this day, she spoke into her log, humanity was saved not by weapons or technology but by showing who we truly are. Han Jiwoo went into the dragon's lair with nothing but our history and her courage. She came back with the dragons as our guardians. Weeks later, Jiwoo stood with Emperor Thraxus on a balcony overlooking Earth. He had come to see the world he had almost destroyed. Below them, cities sparkled in the night. Ships moved through the sky. Life continued, unaware of how close it had come to ending. My people spent 800 years searching the stars for meaning, the Emperor said quietly. You found it in each other. We are still searching too, Jiwoo replied. We just search differently. We search by building instead of conquering, by hoping instead of fearing. Teach us to hope again, Thraxus said. That is all I ask. Jiwoo looked up at the ancient dragon beside her. I will try, but you have to understand something. Hope is not a thing you learn once and keep forever. It is a choice you make every day. Can you make that choice? The Emperor looked at her with his burning eyes, and for the first time in 8 centuries he smiled. Yes, I believe we can. Above them, Earth's sun rose on a new day, and across 4 galaxies, the Vrax Dominion began learning what it meant to be more than conquerors. The dragons had bowed. Now came the harder part, learning to stand for something instead of standing over everyone. But standing together with humanity, they would try.